Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's really nice to come to you again on this teenage talk, teenager to parent, parent to teenager that we have every Sunday at 3 p.m. It's always a joy for me to come to you, your host, Pauline. And yeah, I have a lovely guest this afternoon. And like I say today, our topic is teenagers and addiction. Remember, we started this conversation when the issue of the teenage pregnancy started really coming up just a few weeks ago. And I just felt, how do we respond? What do we do? It's not a blame game. It's not the teen, it's not the parent. It is both of us, both parties to work together. And so today we are talking about teenagers and addiction. And I know we'll be getting much more from our guests, and I want to at this time to just welcome them to say hello. I have Mrs. Emily Obwaka. You can say something, and then I have Dora Obwaka. So over to you to Mrs. Emily.
Hello. Yes, as you've heard, my name is Emily Obwaka. I am a mother of 4, a grandmother of 5, and serve as with an organization that takes care of people in addiction to drugs and alcohol, and hear stories from everywhere about how this is a major problem. So I'm so excited to be here today, especially with my daughter, Dora. Go ahead.
Amazing, amazing. Now, Dora, it's your turn.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Dora Obwaka, but you might know me on social media platforms as Jesus Girl. I am a digital content creator and a millennial believer. And I also serve with Teen Challenge Kenya, and it's a big privilege to be able to be on this platform and just sharing with everybody alongside Mom.
Wow, amazing. Yes, in fact, when I was about to send you the link to join in, I was scrolling Jesus, I was scrolling Dora, but I realized I saved you as Jesus Girl. I mean, I really like that. I mean, the first time you sent me your photo, Dora, Jesus Girl, and I thought, wow, this is so nice. So that is nice. And my daughter was asking me, she's called Jesus. I said, no, she's not called Jesus. She's called Jesus Girl, and and that's very, very nice. So maybe I can start with you, Daktari. Now we have 6 months for our children to be at home.
Yes.
What do you think about that? Let's start there.
That is a huge challenge. Whenever did it happen like this? So you have dynamics that are unprecedented, like people have never been in this space before, where from the morning till the evening, Monday to Monday, you are with your children. And there's only so much you can talk about around the table. There are hours in between there that you have to create content for, as you may put it. You have to think about, okay, after breakfast, what do we do? You can clean the house only for an hour or 2, but after that, you have to think creatively, innovatively about how to engage, young people, because wow, there's so many things. The screen calls, with online learning, there was the temptation to, okay, this is what they are used to, and anyway, they love that space. But we know screen time is not the solution. We know that we have to come up with activities that will help them grow in all areas of life. And this is when we're being called upon as parents just to be so creative and innovative, because what we do with this time will determine how these young people turn out. It is so critical. So just thinking that we need to come up with very, very careful strategies inspired by God, and innovative, new, thinking outside the box, and looking at how we occupy and engage our young people.
Yeah. Wow, so we need to think out of the box. We cannot we cannot do it. It's not business as usual.
It's not.
Wow, okay. So Dora, tell us, how was growing up for you in
well, growing up for me was, I don't, how would I say, a very interesting childhood. I was provided for though. I never lacked, you know, we went to the best schools, lived in good places. So I would never say that there was no provision or I ever slept hungry or outside or anything like that. However, for me, when I was just starting out in school, I was bullied a lot. And so the seed of rejection was really planted in my mind. And I had this idea that I in myself am not good enough. I have to do things above and beyond to be accepted by those who are around me. Mom is also a reverend.
No, I didn't share that bit, but yeah.
She's a reverend, and my dad has struggled with alcoholism for a while. And so for me, I had this idea that you can be in church on Sunday, but between Monday and Saturday, you can just do your own thing. I didn't see serving God or being a Christian or a Christ follower as a Monday to Monday type of affair. I believed as long as you attend a service on Sunday, you wear your Sunday best, you know the worship song, you're praying and you're hallelujahing to everybody, then you're good to go. And so I had a lack of identity also. I didn't know who I am. I didn't know whose I am. And ultimately that influenced the decisions I made as I came into teenagehood.
Around what ages do you remember, maybe class, were you bullied?
I think beginning at about 8 years old, going up till about 12, 13. And I moved schools a lot. I went to several schools in my childhood. I think I went to about like 5 or 6 different schools, and I would only stay in a school for a short amount of time. And so I wasn't building friendships or bonds or lasting relationships even throughout my childhood or as I came into my teenagehood.
What was the reason for changing schools? Was it because you were uncomfortable in some of them?
Yeah, I was uncomfortable in some of them. I remember, especially when I went to boarding school, I was uncomfortable. I was bullied in the different schools that I went to. You know, for me, I think because I am such an outgoing, outspoken person, it probably came across as too much for some people. And so that's, you know, they call it ujuaji. You know, people seeing that why does she feel she's, you know, you're doing sports, you're singing, you're here, you're there, and you're just seen as somebody who's full of themselves, or for lack of a better phrase. And so the girls especially did not take that too kindly. And so actually that saw me feel the need to tone down what I was doing in terms of my achievement in order not to rub people the wrong way. Sort of like let me just, you know, shrink a bit so that I'm able to fit into the spaces I was going into.
So like to fit in.
Yes. And you know, as you're growing up, you're looking for affirmation, you're looking for a group of friends that will accept you. No one can say that they do not look for, it's a part of a human, you know, to have that affection and that friendship and companionship. And so for young people growing up, friends are ultimately such a big deal, you know, sometimes even more so than family. Friends become the end all.
Wow. So how was it for you, Mom, Mrs. Obwaka, changing her schools? Yeah.
You know, it was interesting because, you know, different opportunities presented at different times. For 2 of the schools, it was an opening. For instance, 2 of my daughters, the older daughters, got scholarships. And the first time we changed her school, it was, okay, there's an opening for her to actually go to this high-level international school at next to nothing. So we moved her then. When her sister finished at that school and she went to boarding, she also felt, oh, I would like to go to boarding. So we actually, it was a miracle because it was a missionary school. And we thought, wow, what an opportunity. And we went ahead, took her there, but that turned out to be a huge difficulty. So she was young, she was in boarding, she wasn't able to cope. Then moved her to another missionary school that was a day school. Bullying came up. Moved her to a different system of school, the ACE system that we thought, wow, this is, in my days, if I was growing up, this is the kind of school I would need to go to. Only to realize her style of learning was not, suited to the kind of platform that ACE gave. So there again, she ran into difficulties going into another school. So yeah, as she said, about 5 different schools, all for different reasons. We moved her one stage, after another. The first one, of course, was the neighborhood nursery, that is there. Yeah. But along the road, it seemed a reasonable move, which turned out to be difficult.
That must have been frustrating, yeah, for you too.
Yeah, it was, it was especially, just looking at how at the end of each time she'd been in school, you had to grapple with the fact that, okay, she's moving again. How will she take this new environment? Will she connect with friends? Will she settle down well? And you can imagine, I would hold my breath and think, how will this one go? And then after a year or so, when, things are not working out, it looks like the only option is to go to another school. And so I know that was, a struggle point, especially for her, growing up.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So Dora, so then now you get to teenage. How was teenage for you?
My teenage years now, I feel like I began to thrive, but I feel like I was more in my element in that. From the outward, I was very active in sports. I was very known for basketball and football. I was singing. I was getting awards and stuff. So on the outside, I was very active and doing very well. However, internally now, I was very broken. This came from now the whole backlog of years where I was not fitting in. I, was being bullied, or I, felt the need to become whoever I was hanging around to be accepted, and low self-esteem, low self-worth, lack of identity, just a mixture of things on the inside. However, on the outside, I was actually doing well. Even my grades in school, everything was just okay. I came into my O levels at the age of 16. And so began to do that for 2 years, and that's where I eventually finished. But internally, I was not doing well. So I began to hang out with just different people who would accept me, but were doing things that are not acceptable. So people
At that
drinking.
time, let me just to take you a little bit back. What were you letting your mom know what was going on by that time, or was it only you who knew that you were not okay from the inside?
I wasn't really letting anyone in. Yeah. And I don't know if I talked about this, but mom her job really had her travel a lot. So for 2 or 3 months at a time,
I would travel almost every month for at least a week. Wow. So that was intense, and it was, I would go. And so my mentality actually, when I would come back, would be, what present have I brought for my girls? It's almost to appease them for my absence, and there's not enough length of time with them to really understand what's going on in their lives. And as Dora says, on the outside, she was flourishing. So in fact, she even produced a record, a wonderful song when she was 15, right?
Yes.
15? A wonderful song, which was recorded and amazing. So you'd never tell on the outside that things were not quite well on the inside.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dora. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So you
so
continued.
I came into my O levels at the age of 16, and that's when slowly I started to hang out with people who are drinking and smoking, but I found a big sense of approval and acceptance with these people. So I found that finally, I have people who can pat me on the back and really just accept me and love me, and that's what I'd been longing for and yearning for ever since I was younger. Um, and so I began to hang out with them and began to do what they were doing so that I could fit into that clique. And that's when I began drinking at the age of 17.
Mm.
Yeah.
So now at 17 you started. So but this time are you doing it just school time? So how did you begin so that it continues growing?
Just experimental. There's different stages of addiction, and I believe Mom will share more on that. But I was in the stage that is known as experimental, where I'm getting familiar with the drug, what it looks like, how it smells, how it tastes, the effects it has on my body. And we used to live very close to a shopping mall, and so access was very easy. They never used to ask for ID. And so it wasn't that I had to jump through hoops to get alcohol. I was able to purchase it at the local stores. With being underage, it was quite easy. Now the only thing that really held me back was the budget I was on. Obviously, I was getting pocket money, and so I wasn't able to buy as much. So I would, with my friends, just put money together and then try and get something, but it was very on and off, very sporadic. It wasn't a consistent thing in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so going to parties on and off. When my parents refused me to go to a party, sneaking out.
Yes, now we know.
Now you know, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so sneaking out, waiting till everyone has slept, trying to really, when you're beginning to do something, and this applies to anything related to sin, you're very cautious in how you do it. You're very, you're aware of, wow, this is a bad thing that I'm doing. There's guilt and there's shame associated with it. But the more you continue in that behavior, obviously, the more you have your lux towards, trying to hide and yeah. So that's the deterioration I can see I went through. Yeah.
Wow. Let me also add that she took a gap year after high school, and I think that was, in hindsight, that might have really contributed to the spiral down, because she had a lot of time on her hands. We are talking of 6 months now. But this whole idea of not having a structured time of engagement can be so dangerous.
Yeah.
Because then that connection with friends who are, not good for her, being introduced not only to the alcohol she talked about, but even to Mira, not Mira, what do you call it? Marijuana. Yeah, marijuana. So that now she was on that fast track, and because of my travel schedule, of her time out, things really went through the whole.
Sorry. Let me just change my B. Let me change my.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I needed to change. I realized my internet is bringing issues. Pam, I'll take you back. You are talking about she had 1 year. Yeah.
Yes, a gap year. In those days, it was just an attractive thing to have been on this school journey for many years. So you finish this big Form 4, and it's the IGCSE, and it seems just a natural thing to have some time off. And so she had about a year that we thought, okay, she loved her music, so she wanted to do some producing, connect with us in the studio. Little did we know that studio was where a lot of things which were not right happened. The introduction to marijuana, and just getting so connected with these friends that we were not taking her, or they were not taking each other, to the right place. And by the time we realized, it was, things had really, really gone far.
So by this time, did you still have your traveling job?
I still had a job that involved my traveling, but not internationally. I think then I was doing more local traveling. So I was more at home, but because we had an agreement that, okay, how do you occupy your days? I'm producing music, and there was nothing really to scream out and say, this is really not a good, idea. Her sisters before, the two sisters she follows, had gone immediately into international baccalaureate. So they hadn't even had the opportunity for this gap year. So this is the first time we were experiencing, like, she didn't want to go that route. And we were okay with that. And it seems reasonable because she had this gift in music to pursue something that would then give her a break before she joins college, So in naivety, I guess, not realizing, and which is inspirational, the fact that you asked the question about the 6 months, a lot of time on one's hands, can be disaster if it's not well managed. Yeah.
So at what point did you realize something is not okay with your daughter?
She went into a relationship. She'll talk about that. She went into a relationship, and that really escalated, the problem, because now, whereas before we had this limited amount of pocket money, now she was fully funded, so to speak. Am I right? She was fully funded. She was. Yeah. There was no limit on how long she could engage, what she could engage in, and there were longer and longer periods away from home. There was a demand to, you must come home, you must do this. There was resistance to that. So we realized this is not on. This is just not going the right way, and we are losing our daughter. So in an attempt to sort of stem that journey, we started looking for ways to intervene. And I remember that's when I first went to found a rehab that didn't please me because there were no girls there. There were about 25 men in the rehab, but it was like the only option. And I realized we needed to get her help. She didn't ask for the help. She was, she said, yeah, I had this, I'm on this, but, and I can't get out of it. But it seemed like this was the only way we were going to help her. So behind her back, we made the plan, got her to the rehab, and fighting and kicking, we left her there, for 3 months. And she knows the journey even better. Yeah.
So Dora, so when you ma'am, at some point you got this relationship. By what time, by what age was that now?
I actually, it was that same year of 17. The year 17 for me was very pivotal in a lot of things, and this relationship was one of them. I got into a relationship with an older guy. At the time, he was 22 years old and I was, 17. He was already in the workspace. So whereas I was just coming out of high school and still depending on the measlies that I would get from mom and dad, he was already earning a lot of money. And so I was no longer relying on their pocket money. And so now, because accessibility opened up, then my use also now picked up, because now I was able to buy on any day, go out on any day, and not have to think about the cost of the drugs or alcohol. By this time, I was smoking weed, I was smoking cigarettes, and I was also drinking. But mom didn't mention that soon after I went to the States to pursue music. And in the States, I continued to drink and continued to smoke because it was a music college. And when I came back is when now I went to the rehab mom is talking about. But this relationship that I've mentioned turned out to be a 6-year relationship. So from when I was 17 to when I was 23.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
for the most, yeah, for the most
so
part
when
of
you're
my
going,
addiction.
okay, sorry. So when you are leaving to the States for studies, you were still, mom, you had already known that she was already alcoholic by then.
Not actually to that, not even alcoholic. I knew she was addicted to weed. I knew she was in this relationship that was not going to take her anywhere. So we thought taking her to a different place, taking her, 6,000 miles away, would settle her because she was keen to come out of it. But it was not as we had thought because that didn't last long. She needed to come back because she went into the same. Yeah.
And I think a big mistake that people make is the idea, thinking that the problem is external. But you see, at this point, the problem was internal. So it didn't matter if I was in Antarctica, if I was in America, if I was where, because I was who I was and still seeking that to fill the void that was inside of me. It didn't matter whether I was in Kenya or in America. I still found myself in the same predicament. And I think that's important to note that environmental factors cease to be the grounds for addiction, and the internal chaos is really what needs to be dealt with.
So you went and came back. So how coming back, how did life continue?
My use escalated, and for many people, they don't know that addiction is not an event, it's a journey. So whereas in the beginning you can control and say, this is where I'll use with this person only on Saturdays or only at certain times of the year, Christmas or Easter, we have all these perimeters for when you would like to engage. It now became a daily habit and a daily use. And it got to the point where when I would use the drug, I felt normal. But when I wouldn't use the drug, I would feel abnormal. So there was a shift. And so there was no day you could find me having not smoked or drunk something, because then I would be feeling abnormal. Yeah, so that's by the time I got to 19, when I went to my first rehab. Now I've been using for 2 years, since 17, still in this relationship, and went into the 3-month program not out of
wanting to go.
Yeah, it was not voluntary. Yeah.
So you did the 3 months. How was it for you?
The 3 months were okay. I mean, yeah, the 3 months were okay. A lot happened in the 3 months, but I came out eventually. And my whole idea was I can drink, but I won't smoke. So I thought I could do one and not the other, because at that time I'm thinking, okay, I'm 19, God willing, I live to about even 70. How can I live 50 years sober? I couldn't imagine. I just thought that was a very boring life. And I was just like, no, I cannot do it. I don't want to live 50 years sober. So I was like, alcohol is okay. It's legal. I justified it. And when we want to do something, we'll find the justification to make it okay in our mind. And so I was like, I can drink and I won't smoke. But obviously when you drink, the decisions you make versus the decisions when you're sober are completely different. So I found myself in the very same spot I was in initially, and soon after I was introduced to heroin.
So how was that, ma'am? Now she's gone to rehab and come out. So that time you're still living at home, is it, Dora?
Yes. That time I was still living at home, although I would go for I would go for
periods.
Yeah, I would go for periods of time, let's say to my boyfriend's place or to a friend's place. I wasn't consistently at home. So it was very hard for my family to really keep tabs. And because I wasn't asking them for money or asking for support in any way, and I was above 18, there was very little that they could do.
Pauline.
Yeah.
Pauline, the issue of addiction is, for the one who is working with someone in addiction, is very much like how one takes sleep. that initially there's denial, like your child, your daughter, your son, how can they be in this? You hear stories, but not your own because you know them. So denial. And then, the place where you see that they are not respecting your space, so she would come and go whenever, and you start to get angry, this person is actually doing this maksudi, they are not respecting your home. They are coming, they may not be sober. One time we had her, you say, okay, she will stay home, but she would go and smoke outside in the garden. And then neighbors would complain, so you're angry about that, Then initially, after that comes a period of where you realize, my goodness, this, I have to now almost bargain with her to stop this behavior. So, almost saying, okay, if you do this, we'll do this. Why don't we take you to college? So like, for instance, the heroin that she was introduced to was when we decided, okay, why don't we take you to college? Why don't you pursue something you want to pursue, So because she had come from the States and she didn't want to do music anymore, we decided journalism. So it put her into a pre-university course, and there too things went down the drain. So again, there you start feeling depressed, like this is beyond me. What shall I do about this? And just feeling overwhelmed. But as you go on, as time goes on, eventually you come to realize that this person cannot help themselves. They're in a place where they may want out, but they are caught up. And you see, there's two divides. There are people of the mind that throw her into Madare, let her go for maximum, so that sense is beaten into her, But my sense was always, no, I think this is something about helping her come to a place where she willingly submits, to the authority of Jesus Christ. Remember, by then I'm working for Teen Challenge. So I am seeing people who have been in addiction many years coming to the center. And when they come to the place of submission to Christ and walk with him, they are truly and completely restored. So in my mind, I knew if she could submit to that kind of program, she would be helped. But not for my daughter at that time. She did not want to come to Teen Challenge Women's Center. She was completely adamant that she knew exactly how she was, navigating her life, and she was not willing to come into a Christian rehabilitation. So it was tough, but I had hope. I had hope.
You had hope. How was your relationship with your siblings, Dora?
Obviously it was very strained because I would miss things, major events, birthdays, weddings, things that bring family together. And so it was strained because I would go for months at a time and come back. So I would just say it was very strange. There was very little to no communication during that time. We would only talk when we happened to see each other, and even that talking was just, in passing. Because also I have the shame and guilt, so I'm not trying to be around people, and I'm not trying to have conversation. Because let's say I've just smoked, and I'm thinking, okay, is my breath smelling? Like, how are they looking at me? I'm always thinking, what is she thinking of me? And so there was that wall and guard that I put up that put me at arm's length when it came to the relationships, even with my mom and my dad, and also with my sisters.
So what was the worst extent that you went to in that period?
I think during the time of heroin, the worst I went through was staying on the streets for days at a time. It reached a point where you're not able to, you don't have enough money to constantly buy. And when you don't use the drug, you go through what they call withdrawal symptoms. This is the body's reaction to abrupt withdrawal of the drug that you're so used to having in your system. And so I figured that if I actually stay at the base where they sell it, then I'm cutting costs on transport, I'm cutting costs on just other finances that I would need to expend if I was staying at home or if I was staying with this guy. So there were days and weeks at a time when I would just stay on the street at the base. And yeah, it became normal for me. The most important thing was the drug. So as long as I had the drug, it didn't matter if I was sleeping in a box or in a one bedroom by myself or on the floor or wherever, as long as I was able to get the drug, because the withdrawal symptoms for heroin were very, very intense. And so that became my priority. I was no longer able to stay in school or attend classes or maintain stability in any way. I lost weight to the point where I was 45 kgs, just a shell of myself. And yeah, I soon hit rock bottom. I was still in this relationship, if I can remind you, till I was about 23. Then even that became strange because, you know, we had started using drugs together, but I guess he saw that my use had now escalated to another point where he was like, no, I mean, I thought we were only gonna use to this amount, because he didn't used to use heroin. He only used the weed and the alcohol, and so the relationship also became strained. But during that period of time, I went to rehab a second and a third time, both to the 3-month programs. But in those 3-month programs, we would receive cigarettes on a daily basis from the counselors and stuff. So they would give 5 cigarettes a day. So your whole time in the rehab, you're really still addicted to something. And
so is that a rehab? Is that a rehab?
Yeah, they call it, yeah, it's a rehab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so by the time you're coming out, you're still dependent. There's still a dependency to a substance, and that's a gateway to just going back. I hit rock bottom in November 2018, and that is when, you know, I cried out for help, and I checked myself into the Teen Challenge program.
So what that rock bottom was like that one day you were in the street, you were at the street. What went on in your mind that day?
Actually, the night before I had spent in the street. And then the next day I came home and we talked about it with mom, because now home was no longer an option. She wasn't about to just have me just staying at home and operating as this was my base to going back and forth, you know. So that was no longer an option. The relationship was no longer an option. The friends, quote unquote, that I had begun using with, that only hang around you when you have the money or you're able to, they benefit from you in some way, were no longer there. So I was alone. I was going through withdrawal symptoms so frequently because I wasn't able to get the drug. Obviously my health issues. And so there was a series of just those events leading up to the 29th of November, 2018. But yeah, throughout that time, God used to speak to me about going to Teen Challenge. And I think one of the things about growing up in church and just having a relationship with him from when I was young, I could recognize his voice, you know, and so he never left me. He never moved from where he was. It's me who moved away. But on that 29th November, I made the decision to go into the program, and I left the drugs cold turkey. No medication and stuff like that. It was a tough week because now you see the body is trying to adjust to life without the drugs. And so many chemicals, and mom will explain more, but so many things were altered, just even in the functioning of the brain. So things like sleep, things like eating, I could not do any of that. So when I actually even came into the program, I lost more weight prior to now becoming better, because now I completely did not eat. I was not sleeping. I was constantly throwing up and running stomach and all of this stuff. But you know what, when everybody was snoring because now I couldn't sleep, I would be in the sitting room crying out to God and saying, you know, you said that you give your beloved sleep and just leaning on him. Because one of the things when I came into the program was I made a prayer and I talked to God and I said, you know what, I've been hearing people tell you about you, but I want to experience you for myself. And so the coming into Teen Challenge was an act of obedience, and I expected to meet God in that place, and I did.
Wow, 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 Dora. Let me take Mom back a little bit, and then now we come to that bit. Mom, what would you say was at what worst did you see Dora during that journey of hers? What was the worst for you?
The worst for me was one day I was driving down the street where we live. It was about 7 o'clock, so it was dusk. It was dark actually. And then I see a woman on the side of the street, and I think to myself, why would someone be there? And as the light came on this lady, it was none other but my own daughter. And I remember being overwhelmed with a sense of, what is she going to die? Because she looked like she was next to die. Pauline, I can tell you there was no light in what I saw. And that day I went home and I called a friend and I said, no, we must draw a line in the sand and cry out to God, because he has promised. God must come through. This is not an option. Am I going to bury my daughter? And I had a promise for you concerning her life. And I remember that is the point at which, things just started to turn very, very quickly. She said she was going to come. And Dora is a very determined. I mean, when she decides to do something, she actually wrote a contract and said, I will come into the program and I will stay a year. I will do this, and sure enough, by the grace of God, she came in and began the program. For me, it was like, it's just overwhelming to even think about, because the one who was lost now was found. And I knew her journey, she would never be the same again.
Wow, that is powerful, Mom. I can only imagine. I mean, even a parent who is watching right now and is gotten to that place of seeing the worst. What an encouragement. So you went and said, and you went and booked yourself in. Was Mom in at work that day?
Yes, she was, but she usually is at the men's center, which is like a 5-10 minute walk from the women's center.
Mm-hmm.
By then I'm the one who started the women's center, but by then I had moved over to become the executive director. So my office had changed. And it was just as well, because then I wasn't looking after her directly. She had a team of fine women, mature Christian women, who serve as the staff of the Women's Center, who looked after her and the other women in the center.
Wow. How was that for you, Mom? How was that for you, seeing Dora in rehab?
Yeah.
Hello, sorry.
So she came in and she was able to settle down well. She settled down very well and went through the year of transformation.
Sorry, I think we had an internet issue there. Dora, how was that 1 year for you at the rehab? I think we are sticking. Hello. I think we are sticking. Okay, we are dropping, but I'm sure Dora and Daktari will be back shortly. Yeah, I'm sure. A bit of technical hitch, but we are continuing well. So just hearing Dora's journey and the mother's frustration. That was hard just to listen to Dr. Obwaka share that one day when she was driving and meets a person like a woman on the road and wondering, this lady looks like she's almost dying. And then when the light of the car comes to her, she realizes that it's her daughter. So sorry about that. Oh, we got you back.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. I was just giving up a review of what we have been talking about. So how was rehab for you? How was the 1 year for you, Dora?
The 1 year it was tough, but necessary, and it was a mix of things. But it was a period of encounter. If I could really sum it up under one umbrella, it would be just that, a period of encounter. And I got to develop new disciplines. I got to develop new habits, new character, reading the word of God, spending time in prayer, counseling sessions. And yeah, it was a life-changing year, that's for sure.
Wow, amazing. So how was it for your siblings knowing that now you're in rehab? Were they believing it?
Yes, they used to come and visit me often, and they were really proud of me, They were very much part of the journey with me. Very supportive.
Wow, that was thank you for taking us through the journey, and even for you, Daktari. Now, I don't know, what would you tell a parent who is listening, having experienced that as a mother, your daughter in teenage, what is it that you'd probably tell a parent to look out for in their child, and especially at teenage or just before teenage? And maybe you can tell us, what is the lowest that you have come across of a child who is in addiction?
Many of those who come to the center will talk about their addiction journey having started at about 11, 12, early. Like, as Dora has said, it's a journey. There's that experimental stage that if one associates a good feeling with something they indulge in, there's a likelihood to go back to it. That's the experimental stage. And a child who maybe has a parent who drinks and probably leaves a little of the alcohol in the cup or in the glass will go and taste that, and that will be an interesting flavor, may even be a good flavor. It will make them feel a little woozy in the head, but they'll remember that the brain records good events, just like a path, just creating a path. And the more we do things, the neurons form that pathway, which becomes a highway, which becomes a regularly traveled path. And someone associates a good feeling with what they do. So a child, for instance, however they come into it, sometimes it will be through the peers, sometimes it will be at home, sometimes it will be, these days you don't even have to be in one space, it is through the social media that someone entices you to go to a place you don't know as parents. And especially these 6 months, we must be very careful to where the whereabouts our children are. So beginning there, you form an association. As you continue, maybe now in college or at a place where you can have it more regularly, you move to what we call the social stage, where you are very careful because you've heard about alcoholics. So you don't want to go down that path. So you have your rules. You don't do it on these days. You don't do this kind. You don't do it with these people. You guard yourself. If that's not checked, then, and with these first 2 stages, you can easily get a counselor to work with someone out of it. If that's not checked, they move on to what we call the preoccupation stage, where a lot of decisions are made depending on the availability of this thing. So you go to a party because, they are serving alcohol. You go, with certain friends because you'll get what you want, The preoccupation stage quickly goes to full-blown addiction which is where you cannot be normal without it. So say an alcoholic will develop the tremors when they have not taken their drink. You start to have withdrawals, the headache, the even tremors, palpitations, even of the heart, because the brain is involved. Drugs and alcohol involve mental, the brain, 3 centers in the brain. I won't go into that. We are saying, how do you recognize it in a young person? Drugs and alcohol will start to derange or derail the young person who has a routine. We are creatures of routine. They'll start to derail the routine of a child. So for instance, a child who was very diligent in keeping themselves neat, keeping their things neat, suddenly start to become, very untidy. Suddenly starts to have mood swings, very snappy, very, very, doesn't want to be asked questions about where they're going and what they're doing. Addiction has, once people in addiction want to be isolated. They don't want to be near people. They want to do their own thing. So a child who will lock themselves in their room for long hours, you don't know what they're doing, you just hear music there. Be very cautious. Let your antennas be up. A child who will tell lies, because addiction is associated with a lot of lies, deception, a lot of deception. And then just not wanting to engage because they don't want the light to come into the place where they are. It will spoil the whole journey. So look out for those things. When a child is in school, their grades are likely to suffer because they are, of course, not giving full attention to their schoolwork. You'll realize they have different kinds of friends. So, if you notice your son, your daughter is now associating with different people who they didn't associate with before, probably older people. Us parents have this, sixth sense of knowing good friends for our children. When you realize this, they are friends who are your quasi, you should be cautious about that. So these are just some of the signs that show up when a child is probably engaging in habits that are not right, and especially addiction.
Yeah. Wow. So Dora, what would you tell a parent? I mean, how now that you talked about, like that time you were bullied when you were in school, what then would you tell a parent? Because you said you were not able, you didn't want someone to get in there. But how would you think a parent would be able to get in there?
I think definitely spending time, quality time. A lot of times you'll be in the same room, but you're completely on different. Someone is on their phone, someone is on their laptop. There's the occasional, are you okay? Are you okay? But there needs to be an intentional time where it's just speaking, getting to understand your child, where they are, and building an environment or an atmosphere of openness and transparency. When a child feels like they can approach you because you've been so real, even you being able to share your own personal struggles, and so that they don't feel like, hey, you don't want to, you don't want to have parents who are walking around, holier than thou and have never even, ever sinned, just being able to create an atmosphere of transparency and openness so that your child does feel like they can approach you, and that there's no grounds for judgment or backlash, or someone can tell you something and your first thing is to be like, how can you, and just but just creating the atmosphere for transparency, and then intentional quality time that will serve as a foundational building for further conversation.
Wow. Ma'am, you mentioned something, Daktari, about how you would travel every month, but you'd come with goodies to take care of the time you are. What would you say about that to parents?
One needs to be very careful about that. That cannot replace what Dora is talking about, the real life, authentic connection with your son, your daughter. it is so crucial to form a friendship. And yet a friendship that is cautious, because as parents, we are not there to so much befriend our children to the place where, they'll get away with anything with us. We need to be the voice of light, of life, and of love. I talk about the 3 L's. We need to be the light, especially because if we're all in the mix, then they have no one to go to when they are needing to know the way. But we need to be careful about how we are guarding our own feelings. When I talked about gifts, it was more to appease my conscience. I've almost like pacified them, and not a careful look at what is my responsibility at this time to this child, where they are, what are the dangers that they may be going through, who are the friends they are engaging with, where are the places they're getting information, and being very intentional and purposeful about being involved in their spaces, so that you're able to guide them and not thinking that you can do parenting remotely as you jet in and jet out.
Wow, wow. Now, what would you tell a teenager, Dora, who is watching you and is probably at that point of starting up? You did at 17, but could be at 13. Yet mom has told us even 10, 11 are starting. What would you tell that teenager who is at home right now listening?
For the first thing is, the enemy doesn't come as the enemy. The Bible says that he masquerades himself as an angel of light. So nothing presented that is bad looks bad, or else you wouldn't be drawn towards it. But that's the whole thing of the way the enemy works, is to try and entrap you using things that may look like they're very glamorous. When we see these things on, let's say, music videos, or, when they are showing people in the club, or even the adverts on TV, might I add, or the billboard, it looks very, a bottle that is really plastered there looking so nice, but they do not show you when the person is sleeping in the ditch outside an estate. They do not show you when somebody is admitted to a rehab center. And that is because the pull is to get you inside. And so I would say, please understand the danger of drugs and alcohol. Another thing I think my train of thought will come back. So understand the danger of it. And nothing, addiction does not start in a day. A lot of people, addiction does not start in a day. A lot of people believe that, they would be able to just have one and stop, have two and stop. But you do not understand when there's a switch between you being the master and the drug being the slave, to the drug being the master and you being the slave. It is a very quick switch. And unfortunately, the friends that begin with you at some point will leave you.
Wow, Dora, that was really, really powerful. So it's now been almost 2 years since you're sober?
Yes.
What would you say has been the best of the 2 years?
Oh, one of the best has been definitely rebuilding my relationships with my family, walking in purpose, having confidence again. Before I could not even speak before people. There was that the enemy traps you with shame and guilt and self-doubt and just feeling like you're not worthy. You're not, and so when you're not aware of who you are, you walk around with your head down and you're not able to thrive or walk in purpose. And so the best thing has been being able to get to know who I am, and through knowing who I am, walking in that confidence, walking in purpose, and then rebuilding my relationship with Akina Mom. Although I've recently moved out, I still make sure that I visit. I visit like today. Wow. And we're rebuilding that relationship as God allows.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. So, Dr. How is it seeing Dora sober for the last 2 years now. How is it for you as a mother?
Just such a blessing. I can tell you, it is like a miracle before my eyes every day. Just thankful to God. It's where you know that this God we have believed in is a true and living God. He is able in every and all instances just to transform and to sustain. Someone may think there's a school of thought that says, oh, once an addict, always an addict. But I can tell you, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Wow. I see my daughter thriving from one level of glory to another. I mean, the kinds of things she's been able to do since she went to the center, the kinds of things she's doing now, the kind of people she's helping, and the things that God is using her, in many contexts to do, just causes me to stand amazed at the power and love of God. And I'm so thankful just looking at her.
Amazing. So talk to that, wow. Talk to that parent right now who is feeling so desperate and wondering what will happen to their child. Talk to that sister, because even siblings suffer the same when they are sibling, like Dora shared, it becomes a strain. So talk to that family right now who are in distress because they have someone going through addiction.
Yeah. Our place of hope is God. And God is well able. I've come to realize that our task, our assignment as children of God is to believe God's word. He said he is able to deliver from every snare, every difficulty, every mountain can be moved out of the life of someone. So my encouragement to you, parent, brother, sister, uncle, auntie, whoever you are connected to someone who is in addiction, is that hold on to the promise of God, because he is a promise keeper, a miracle worker, a prayer answering God. What he said he will do, what he promised, he will definitely fulfill. For sure, you need only to keep looking and declaring the word of God concerning the one that you're hoping for. Like in Dora's case, I kept saying, you are coming through. You are a woman of God. You're an evangelist. You're mightily endured. You are greatness inside of you. And those words are established. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. As you speak that word over the person who is in that place, something happens. It institutes the truth, and heaven agrees with you. God agrees with you and watches over that word to establish it. So, the Bible says in Job chapter 22, verse 28, that you shall decide and decree a matter and it shall be established for you. So go, be bold, be bold. Don't take what you see with your eyes as this is the way it is. Don't be tempted to even speak words of anger and frustration and even almost a curse over the person that you'll never amount to anything, or, yours is just, you're just finished or whatever. Don't be tempted to see what you see and declare depending on what you see. Stand up and declare according to the word of God concerning this one, who you knew as a young person, who you knew had these hopes and dreams, and declare those things over them that you know are true, and persist in that. Through faith and patience, we inherit the promise. So for you too, God did it for me, he will do it for you. Keep holding on, keep hoping, it shall come to pass. Amen.
I must say that's emotional. I must say that's emotional for me. I mean, it's amazing just hearing your testimony and you encourage people. Now, I can't believe it. Our time is over.
What?
And now it is over. And what I can ask now is just for a parting shot from each one of you, and then we shall conclude. So I'll start with Dora, your parting shot, and then Daktari.
Yes, I just, as Mom has said, we must keep hope alive. The worst place to be is in a hopeless place where you're in a situation, yes, but you do not see or anticipate change. That is a dead man walking. But as long as hope is alive, as long as we continue to trust in Jesus, he's able to cause things to happen above all we could ever ask, think, or imagine. So let us continue to pray and trust for those who are still in places of addiction. that change is possible with he who holds all power in his hands.
Thank you, Dora.
Yeah. I just want to say that the most important decision a parent, a child can make is to be a follower of Jesus Christ. With you, your life in his hands, there is infinite hope. There is infinite hope. And that's where you want to remain. Our lives are in his hands. So whatever happens, you know you are, the best is yet to come. And that is the hope and trust and knowledge of what will happen that we have in God. So I want to encourage you to keep looking up, because God has a good plan for all of us. Yeah, God bless you.
And God bless you, Dr. Emily and Dora. You know, Dora, Jesus girl. I like your the Jesus girl name for you. Yeah, so thank you very much. I really can't even begin to summarize the many things you have done, but many were watching and many will continue watching. And like we were saying before even we began the show, that even if for that one person today, this afternoon, will be changed because of your testimony and because of even sharing your lives, you know, laying bare your lives to us who are viewing. We know it's not easy, but we know that disappointments may be God's appointment. It was appointed that you'd be here. You were disappointed at some point, but here you are. It was in his appointment. So thank you for even showing up on duty. I mean, sharing your life is showing up on duty. I mean, it's ministry. Right now you're in ministry, and thank you very much. The Lord bless you. Thank you, viewers, for listening. I've been your host, Pauline, and our sign language interpreter is Fiona. Thank you, Dr. Obwaka and Dora. May the Lord bless you all, and may the Lord bless Kenya. So bye-bye from us. Bye. Bye.
Bye.